Hey, Mr. C here again with another Photoshop frame animation. In honor of St. Patrick's Day, I thought we'd make a shamrock dancing. So let's get started. Open up Photoshop and then choose File, New. In the name of the file, we're going to name it Shamrock. And we're going to set the width to 300 pixels by 300 pixels. It's square. And we want to have the background set to white. So let's click OK. There is our background. Now we're going to create a shamrock shape. Now in that shape tool, which is toward the bottom right above the hand, you have a rectangle, rounded, ellipse, polygon, line, and custom shape tool. And this is the one we want to select here. And then in the custom shapes, you notice that there are categories up here where it says shape, and I have shamrock selected already. But if you don't, all you have to do is click on that, drop down, you'll see the shapes appear. If it's not in this first dialog box, then you have to open up the settings, and then you have to find the nature settings. And when you click on that, it's going to ask you to replace current shapes. That's fine, or you can append them. In other words, you can add them on to the end of the shapes you already have on there. I'm just going to select OK, and that loads the nature shapes into the dialog box. Again, we want to start with the shamrock, so let's click on that. And we want the shamrock to be symmetrical, so we're going to hold the Shift key, and we're going to start in the upper left hand corner and drag it down. And we want it to fill most of the area in the box here in our window. Now, one of the things that you need to do is also set the fill color to light green. And when you click on that, you can see there's a selection of colors, and we want light green right there. And the light green will appear. And then we don't want any stroke here as well. So no stroke. So light green and no stroke, it also becomes my foreground color as well. Alright, so we've got the correct color, the correct size. Now we're going to add some effects to our shamrock. Now there's a couple ways you can do that. You can go to the layer menu and double click on it, and that's going to bring up the layer styles options. And in those options you have some tabs on the left hand side, and each tab has different settings and different options that you can choose to apply to our shape here, our shamrock. And in our case, we're going to create several different options, or blending options basically, and styles. So you can, like I said, double click on it, or you can go up to the edit menu and the layer menu and choose layer styles, and there's all those options as well. And we're going to first start off with the drop shadow, and you'll notice that it just brings up the same dialog box I had up earlier, but with the drop shadow selected. And see, tell it's selected because it's highlighted in blue and has a check mark in by it. Alright, so the next step is we have to set these drop shadow options. But instead of a black drop shadow that you see here, we want to change that to a dark green. So I'm going to click on the color swatch there in the options menu, and then again I'm just going to go up to my swatches colors and choose dark green here. And I'm going to turn off my highlighter just for a minute so I can see what color I'm getting. And that's dark green right there, so I'm going to click OK. Alright, now the opacity is going to be set at 70%. Our angle is going to be at 90 degrees. And our distance is going to be set to 4. and the size of the drop shadow is going to be set to 6 pixels. And then you can see the effects apply to your drawing on the side if you move your layer styles dialog box out of the way. So our next step is to go to the inner shadow. Now, the inner shadow is located again on the side tab, and you have to click on it with the check mark highlighting it to turn that on. And this time, you see we have similar options, and this time we want to change our color to a light green, and the light green will apply to that shadow. And this time we want to change the opacity to 100%. Again, we want it at 90. Global light is checked on. 5 for the distance, 0 for the choke, and 5 for the size. Now we also want to do an inner glow, and you can see the effects that it applies when I select it. Now on the inner glow, I want to maintain the screen for the blend mode. I want to make sure that the opacity is at 75 and the noise is at 0. But I want to change the color here from light yellow to white. And I'll click OK. Now you can see a real nice highlight up here on the corners here. Kind of rounds the leaves a little bit. And I want to make sure I set the technique for elements to softer edge 0 and 5. Okay. Now we're ready to select a gradient overlay. So again, here on the tab, we want to choose this gradient overlay. But you notice that this black gradient overlay in our normal setting doesn't quite make what we're looking for. So instead of the blend mode to normal, I want to set that to screen. There we go. So we got a nice light opaque overlay here. And I want to change the opacity from 100% to 60. And then I want to make sure it is linear here. And I also want it at 90 degrees and the scale at 100%. And now we're going to do one more effect, and that's the outer glow. And in the outer glow too, we want to change that to white. And we want to make the opacity at 80% and the noise at 0. And again, it's softer. The spread is 0 and the size is 5, and then quality is 50% and 0. So those are our blending options. I think we will add one more to kind of really give it a little pop, and that's to add some satin effect. So again, I'm going to select the satin tool, and instead of black, I want to set that to the dark green that we used before, and change the opacity to 50%. The angle is going to be at 90 degrees, and the distance is going to be at 29, and our size is going to be 54. So there we have our Shamrock, giving it a little drop shadow, a little effect here, make it a little more 3D, and now we can select OK. So now we've got our Shamrock here. It's kind of a 3D and a nice effects that we've added. You can see all the effects that we've added to the Shamrock shape. And now it's time to duplicate our shape. Notice I just clicked that arrow and that hides all the blending options that we had. And I want to duplicate this 3 times. So I can hit Control J on the keyboard, and that's going to duplicate that 3 more times. So we're going to have a total of 4 shapes. Okay. Once I've duplicated the 4 shapes, now I want to scale these 4 shapes. I'm going to start on the second shape. Okay, we're going to leave the first shape at its original size, but the second shape is going to be a little bit smaller, and I'm going to go up to the edit menu to scale it, and I'm going to choose edit, and then transform path, and then choose scale. And that brings up our options at the top of the screen. And I want to make sure that the chain link for width and height are locked in together. And I just have to type it in once. And I want to change that to 95%. And then I'm going to hit the select button. Notice that 95% is automatically inserted into the height if you type it in the width box. So I'm going to check that. And now I'm going to click on the second shape. Now I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Control T to select that. Again, I want to lock the height and width together, make it proportional, and then again I'm just going to select one of the other height or width and type in 90%. And again, when I do that and it's locked together, it corresponds with the other one, and so I can select it. Okay. And then finally I want to select that last Shamrock shape, layer 3, and I want to change that. Again, Control T, and again lock the shapes together by height and width, and change from 100% to 85%. And again, it should be locked together, and so the width and height are the same, it's proportional, and I can click the accept button. Now you notice that I've got, looks like 4 different layers here. They're one right on top of the other, and so now we can use our animation tools. Alright, so if you don't have your timeline open, go up to the Windows drop down menu at the top of the screen and select Timeline. That'll open up the palette at the bottom as you see here. Again, you have 2 options with a drop down in the timeline, video or frame animation. So we want to make sure it's frame animation because we're just doing frames for simple GIFs. And click on that button that says Create Frame Animation. Now, once you have the frame animation on there, there's one last thing we want to do in the layers palette, and that's just to select the background layer. And we no longer need the background because we want the background to be transparent so that when you go to put it on your website, the background of your website shows through, and we don't see a white square on top of your blue background, for example. So we're just going to delete that. So click on the trash can, and that deletes the background. So now you see we have that transparent checkerboard in the background of all 4 of our shamrocks. Okay. Now our next step is to create a frame from each layer. So I'm going to go to the timeline pop-up window, and I'm going to choose Make Frame from Layers. And again, that's on the timeline, and you can find that right there in the upper right hand corner of the timeline and choose Make Frame from Layers, and you'll notice now that the 4 frames appear and it looks to be getting smaller as we click on each frame. Okay. Now before I animate this, I want to add a couple more frames here. So I'm going to click on frame number 2, and I'm going to duplicate that frame. Okay. So I find the duplicate buttons by the trash can there on the bottom of the timeline, and it duplicates frame 2 and frame into frame 3. Now I want to simply drag that frame 3 to the end and make that the frame number 5. And then I want to repeat that with frame number 3, duplicate it, and then drag the duplicated frame to the end. So now you see that we're going to have the original. It gets smaller, smaller, smallest. Now it's starting to get bigger, bigger, and then it would go back to the original. So we end up having 6 frames, and it's going to pulsate back and forth, up and down. And I do want it to pause about a half second on frame number 1, and I'm going to select the 4th frame, which is the smallest one, and just have it pause for a half second or a tenth of a second here, or 0.1, and I'm going to leave the others at 0. And then when I choose play, it kind of pauses there, and it's hard to see with just playing at once, so let's choose forever, and now click play. So it looks like it's beating, it's dancing, whatever you want to call it. Alright, so I'm going to stop that. I am now going to save my Shamrock. I'm going to click save and choose save. I've already got one in there. I'm going to replace it. I'm going to click OK. Be sure you save that into your Photoshop file folder, and that way you know exactly where your files are all located, and it should be on your network drive. Now the next step is to save it for the web, so you can place this Shamrock on your website. Again, we've talked about the type of GIF files. The 128 dithered, it doesn't matter if you use the 128 or the 32. We talked about it only makes a difference in the size of the image. So the higher the quality, the slower supposedly the image will be when you download it on the internet. But we're talking such small files here, it's not going to make much difference. So I'm just choosing the highest quality, and I'm going to choose save. And again, make sure it's in your Photoshop folder on your network drive. So there's my network drive, there's Computer Check and Photoshop, and Shamrock's already selected. I click save, and there we go. We have our Shamrock saved as an animation, and we saved it as a Photoshop file, so if we ever want to come back and edit it, make changes to it, we can. And that's just another quick tutorial, a little lesson on creating the Shamrock from the Shapes tool and applying layer styles to the Shamrock. So if you have any questions, you're running into any difficulties with any of your projects, be sure to see me before class, during class, before school, after school. You're free to come in during your study halls as well as advisory. So there shouldn't be any excuses for not being able to get these done and complete. So again, if you need to check these tutorials out, they're on my YouTube page, and there's a link on my website to my YouTube page. So photo animations went pretty smoothly, so let's sign off for now, and we'll wait until the next time on our next lesson.